Rich and cool guy transfers to the troubled school, where he stands up for the loser, kicks the bully's ass, and snags the most beautiful girl. Stay tuned. Dan Hyo-chang flinches slightly at the barrage of questions, struggling to maintain composure as flashing cameras intensify the pressure. Dan Hyo-chang remains stoic as reporters bombard him with urgent questions about the allegations and their impact on his political future. The crowd leans in closer, voices rising as Dan Hyo-chang stands tense and pressured, unable to escape their urgent demands for answers. Jang Seok-dong maintains a serious expression as he clarifies the legitimacy of admission and announces Gunwoo Dahn's impending school transfer to address concerns. A voice hesitates, withholding crucial information and maintaining an air of secrecy as the conversation continues. Gunwoo Dahn plays cards with a smug grin while Hyunmin Kwon relaxes nearby, overseeing the smoky, chaotic gambling den disguised as a classroom. As the exchange persists, skepticism about the students' presence at the school is emphasized, heightening the underlying tension outside the principal's office. Jang Seok-dong, maintaining a serious tone, explains that over 200 children of political and business insiders have already requested transfers to the school. Hyunmin Kwon, maintaining a serious tone, affirms his trust in Gunwoo Dahn by citing both his father's reputation and his own faith in him. Jang Seok-dong leans forward, voice firm as he cautions not to misunderstand his intentions, maintaining a serious demeanor in the fading light. Someone speaks to Gunwoo, suggesting he tidy up his appearance before starting, while he sits silently, showing no reaction. Gunwoo keeps his head down, quietly yielding to Principal Jang's authority as the atmosphere remains tense and controlled. Sense of quiet settles in as the exterior of the school comes into view, signaling a pause after the tense exchange. Gunwoo, focused, uses his foot to slide the door open, entering cautiously as tension lingers. The teacher scolds the distracted students, prompting them to sit up straight as Cha Yuri continues folding paper instead of focusing on homework. As Hyunmin Kwon's firm announcement hangs in the air, Gunwoo Dahn and the rest of the group react with varying levels of curiosity and surprise. Gunwoo stands assertively with his hands behind his back, demanding the other person introduce themselves. Gunwoo Dahn smiles confidently, introducing himself by name and mentioning he's from Hanam. Other students glance over and quietly gossip, their curiosity and excitement growing as they discuss Gunwoo's connection to the admissions scandal. Gunwoo addresses Taekyung about the seating arrangement, maintaining his composure as Taekyung looks on with surprise. A student gestures to the seat next to Hyunmin, informing Gunwoo that this will be his new place in the classroom. Hyunmin flinches, his anxious expression tightening as he quietly utters, "Ah," in response to the unsettling moment. Cha Yuri leans in with a smug grin, loudly taunting Hyunmin, while other students glance over, amplifying Hyunmin's discomfort. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the chatter, instructing everyone to quiet down and start cleaning the board in preparation for class. The clock's hands reach 12, emphasizing the charged pause as everyone awaits the next event. Hyunmin grins at Gunwoo's comment, both blending into the lively chatter of their classmates. Gunwoo greets Hyunmin with a warm introduction, while Hyunmin looks down nervously, silently acknowledging the gesture. Gunwoo leans in slightly, showing interest as Hyunmin gathers the courage to continue his cautious question. Hyunmin warns Gunwoo to avoid talking to him for his own sake, while Gunwoo looks puzzled and quietly asks why. As the questions continue, Gunwoo sits quietly amid the curious group, absorbing their attention while appearing caught off guard and unsure how to respond. He recovers his composure, offering a warm smile as he politely thanks everyone and returns their greeting. Gunwoo hesitates under the group's expectant stares as Hyunmin presses for an answer, while Young Rock, Taekyung, and Cha Yuri quietly observe the exchange. Hyunmin leans in with a smug expression, confronting Gunwoo, who sits frozen and visibly startled by the sudden outburst. Gunwoo stammers an apology, backing away from the desk as Hyunmin glares, making the atmosphere even more uncomfortable. Gunwoo's demand intensifies the atmosphere as Hyunmin's anxiety shows in his trembling hands, unable to meet the authority in front of him. Gunwoo, furious, shouts and delivers a forceful kick, sending Hyunmin stumbling backward in shock and pain. Hyunmin Kwon abruptly spits out liquid, face contorted in shock and disgust. Jang Seok-dong throws a forceful punch, sneering as he warns that the newcomer's presence won't spare his target from punishment. Gunwoo angrily presses his foot down harder on his pinned opponent, shouting the threat about another night in the garbage incinerator. Cha Yuri glares defiantly at Hyunmin Kwon, spitting out an insult as Young Rock Park smirks quietly behind her, escalating the confrontation. Gunwoo Dahn sharply turns in his seat, locking eyes with the person he addresses as the classroom's attention shifts to him. Gunwoo maintains his calm demeanor as he politely but firmly asks the interrupter to wait, emphasizing his desire to speak with his deskmate. Hyunmin's frustration grows as Gunwoo remains indifferent, while Cha Yuri, Young Rock Park, and Taekyung quietly observe the escalating tension. Gunwoo blocks the blow with his arm, fiercely defending his friend as he warns the attacker to leave him alone. Gunwoo calmly orders Hyunmin to find his seat, maintaining an assertive stance as Hyunmin sits with a resigned expression. Gunwoo remains lying down, voice steady and eyes locked on his target, making his decisive threat clear without hesitation. Hyunmin Kwon smirks, dismissively taunting his opponent with a mocking retort. Without hesitation, Gunwoo leads his group out of the classroom, his friends following closely behind with calm, determined expressions. Gunwoo sits anxiously on the ground, adjusting his glasses and admitting his hunger as a hand reaches out toward him. Gunwoo Dahn extends his hand with a warm smile, offering to buy snacks and inviting the other person to let him treat them. Gunwoo confidently invites Hyunmin to join him as they leave the classroom, prompting Hyunmin's surprised reaction while another student remains lounging behind them. The man exhales thoughtfully, foot propped on the table, intrigued as he tries to recall Gunwoo Dahn's reputation. The view lingers on the SM sign as the setting settles, signaling a transition before any characters appear. Gunwoo politely hands over the hot dog as the cashier begins preparing to ring up his purchase, both maintaining a calm, transactional demeanor. The dragon poker chips are placed side by side, drawing attention and raising suspense in the midst of the transaction. Hyunmin listens as Gunwoo questions the odd currency, while Younggrok stands slightly apart, appearing deep in thought amid the conversation. Gunwoo, still eyeing Hyunmin, smugly questions if the taste is bad, while Hyunmin remains silent and visibly uncomfortable. Gunwoo glances up, curiosity evident as he listens to the question about his knowledge of their school. The focus lingers on the Grand Songmyung group building while the speaker stresses the influence tied to the vice president's son at their school. One bully shoves Gunwoo against the wall as the others close in, their laughter echoing while he glances around, overwhelmed and fearful. A flicker of realization passes over Gunwoo's face as Younggrok Park steps through the gates, marking the beginning of change. He hesitates, uncertainty flickering in his eyes as he shares that no one knows if the story about the proposal is true or just gossip. Ta Yuri lights up with excitement at the buffet while Hyunmin Kwan happily digs in, both caught up in the joyful atmosphere. The tense atmosphere sharpens as the gambling proposition is unveiled, cards and chips splayed across the table amid scattered bills. The focus shifts to the coin's distinctive design, emphasizing its exclusive worth and covert circulation among students. Gunwoo strategically distributes coins to the class bullies, setting off a gambling chain that gradually places the entire school under his calculated control. Gunwoo continues explaining to Hyunmin the positive changes, emphasizing how even the teachers ignored the new system as violence declined. He continued building his network, shaking hands with newly transferred elite students eager to align themselves with his rising influence. Now, Taekyung-woo stands confidently before his formidable group, their collective presence signaling their unrivaled control over the school. Continuing outside, Hyunmin admits his surprise about being left uninformed by both the principal and his father, while Gunwoo listens thoughtfully. Gunwoo, still cautious, looks over his shoulder and asks if the accusation of betrayal was due to standing up to the group. The atmosphere grows heavier as Taekyung-oh stands apart, his silent presence underscoring the normalization of violence and moral decay throughout the school. Tears streaming down, Gunwoo chokes out his frustration, despairing over the point of school when its values still meaningless to him. Gunwoo gives a gentle smile as he calmly acknowledges Hyunmin's point. Gunwoo shifts from calm to confrontational, stepping forward and sharply accusing Hyunmin and Taekyung of betrayal as both watch tensely. Both remain quietly alert, sharing a tense focus as they prepare for what comes next. Jumong Mung descends the stairs with a smug expression, confidently challenging his opponent while smoking a cigarette. Jang Se-yok-dong exhales smoke with a menacing glare, warning the class president that reporting him has consequences and the issue isn't over. Gunwoo stammers, struggling to speak as Hyunmin quietly sips from his can, the awkward tension lingering between them. Jang Se-ok-dong steps forward with a confident smile, introducing himself as Jumong and mentioning that Gunwoo's name sounded familiar. Hyunmin Kwan, still eating calmly, directly comments on Gunwoo Dan's violent reputation as a child, recalling a specific instance of a brutal fight. Hyunmin and Younggrok intensify their questioning, challenging Gunwoo about his reputation as Gunwoo reacts with visible surprise under their scrutiny. Hyunmin's playful jab about the Fist of Fire nickname irritates Gunwoo, who bluntly rejects it while Taekyung remains silent, watching their dynamic. Gunwoo continues his steady approach, voice firm as he confirms Hyunmin's assumption, tension lingering in the air. Hyunmin confidently points at Gunwoo with a slight smile, suggesting he should join Taekyung while Gunwoo listens curiously. Hyunmin presses further, insisting the principal let Gunwoo in for a reason and promising dramatic change if he joins, while Gunwoo remains cautiously attentive. Gunwoo Dahn flashes a proud smile, gesturing to his shirt and bragging about its designer label and the hefty price Taekyung paid for it. He lowers his hand, letting ash fall, voice low as he tempts with promises of rigged grades and rule-breaking without consequences. Gunwoo, still exuding confidence, raises his fist with a sly grin while hinting at future nights out and shared mischief. Younggrok Park smirks as he challenges Gunwoo Dahn about his politician father, while Gunwoo Dahn stands silent and uneasy, Hyunmin Kwan observing quietly. Gunwoo Dahn, maintaining a calm demeanor, points out who's the class idiot, his observation cutting through the tense atmosphere. He continues forward, unease deepening as he processes how normalized these illicit activities and unique currency have become among the students. Gunwoo Dahn breaks a chopstick in his hand, voice steady and defiant as he insists he's never one to bow to anyone's bidding. Gunwoo Dahn exhales smoke, maintaining his calm confidence as he continues to smoke the cigarette. Hyunmin, looking smug, calls out Gunwoo for pretending to be cool with his cigarette, leaving Gunwoo visibly startled and caught off guard. Hyunmin Kwan's expression shifts to shock as he abruptly calls out to Gunwoo, his voice betraying his anxiety. No one moves as Gunwoo Dahn and Hyunmin Kwan maintain their hard gazes, while Youngrok Park observes silently from behind. Gunwoo's smirk hardens as his voice tightens, fist still trembling with restrained anger, amplifying the threat hanging between them. Jung Seok-dong, furious, shouts while slamming his fist into Gunwoo Dan's face and yanking him closer by the collar. Taekyung-oh interrupts sharply from the stairs, halting Gunwoo and Hyunmin's escalating confrontation with a commanding shout. Jung Seok-dong interrupts with anger, forcefully confronting Jumong and demanding he let go of the new classmate. Gunwoo, clearly irritated, throws out a bitter remark while Hyunmin stands firm and Youngrok remains silent, tension holding between the three. Gunwoo, still radiating smug defiance, taunts his opponent further, emphasizing his confidence and daring them to drop their tough exterior. Gunwoo hesitates, pausing mid-step as uncertainty flickers across his face, reconsidering his next move in the tense silence. Gunwoo Dan and Hyunmin Kwan halt as Jang Seok-dong steps forward, his provocative tone challenging them with, "New kid, wanna play a game?" Gunwoo Dan glances back, amused, and asks how he's supposed to play the coin game without any coins. Jang Seok-dong leans forward with hostility, snapping at the crowd and challenging anyone hesitant to either play or get out. Gunwoo gazes forward, hopeful, as he quietly considers the possibility of obtaining coins to carry out his plan. Hyunmin urgently warns Gunwoo not to accept the challenge, while Gunwoo faces Youngrok with determination and Youngrok waits silently. Gunwoo's confident smirk lingers as he delivers his challenge, signaling his unwavering determination to face what's coming after class. The school day ends as the building stands quiet in the warm glow of sunset. Whispers ripple through the classroom as students eye Jumong and Gunwoo, some amused and others worried about Gunwoo's chances. Hyunmin Kwan flicks ash from his cigarette while Gunwoo Dan remains expressionless, their silent standoff drawing uneasy glances from nearby classmates. Gunwoo Dan maintains his assertive stance, emphasizing the voluntary nature of the agreement as tension lingers between both sides. He leans forward on the desk, maintaining his grin as he warns there's no backing out, his tone light but firm. A tense pause follows as 5 poker chips are placed on the table and someone announces, "The game we'll be playing is called Slaps." A hand comes down hard on the desk, sending all 5 coins flipping into the air as the rules are explained. The 5 coins are displayed in a neat line as the explanation emphasizes their value and hints at 2 special rules. Both players focus intently as hands hover over the 5 school coins, rules being explained about coin usage and round winners. Gunwoo raises the stakes confidently, pointing at Hyunmin, who reacts with shock as the tense betting game escalates to 10,000 won. Gunwoo shakes his jacket open in frustration as Hyunmin, overwhelmed by anxiety, covers his ears while the tension over the looming debt intensifies between them. Gunwoo turns to the classroom, his tone firm as he warns that no one can avoid paying their debts, intensifying the atmosphere. Hyunmin Kwan, intrigued, questions Taekyung's power as Youngrok Park responds with certainty, both maintaining a serious tone across the desk. Youngrok Park and Taekyung continue mocking Gunwoo Dan, laughing smugly as Gunwoo remains calm and unshaken in the face of their taunts. Youngrok Park, unfazed by the group's laughter, confidently proposes they raise the stakes and start each hand with a bet of 100 coins. Gunwoo confidently raises his hand, signaling ×5, while Hyunmin looks on, caught off guard by the sudden escalation. The group's excitement fades as Hyunmin calculates the mounting total, while Gunwoo's shock deepens at the unexpected expense. Gunwoo smirks confidently, taunting his opponent with a challenge and doubting they can last 5 minutes. Without waiting for a response, Gunwoo Dan leans in, his tone sharpening as he accuses the opponent of deliberately dragging things out. Gunwoo Dan smirks confidently, challenging his opponent with a taunt. "You're scared?" Gunwoo Dan's face contorts in fury as he growls, his anger visibly intensifying in response to Taekyung-oh's taunt. Gunwoo slams his fist on the desk, shouting his challenge with defiant energy as Hyunmin and Taekyung react with excitement and motivation. Gunwoo stiffens in his seat while Hyunmin's suspicious stare intensifies and Taekyung hesitates nearby, unsettled by the shift in atmosphere. Gunwoo remains unshaken as an aggressive fist swings toward him on his first day, showing no sign of retaliation. His gaze stays fixed forward, anxiety deepening while he tries to make sense of the sudden hostility directed at him. Gunwoo confidently throws scissors while Hyunmin responds with a fist, heightening the tense challenge between them. Hyunmin remains standing behind Gunwoo, both focused and silent as the intensity between them lingers in the quiet room. Gunwoo, wearing a confident expression, vows to Hyunmin that he will prove his point and demonstrate the truth. Gunwoo, still composed at the desk, calmly states that money and power aren't everything, directly challenging Hyunmin's beliefs. Hyunmin listens intently while Gunwoo demonstrates the first slap, both watching the coins with measured anticipation as the game begins. Gunwoo continues outlining the betting mechanics, specifying the multiplier rule, while Hyunmin listens closely, appearing increasingly absorbed in the explanation. Gunwoo's explanation shifts the mood as both he and Hyunmin react anxiously, Gunwoo tearing at his jacket and Hyunmin clutching his head in distress. Hyunmin Kwon, now more composed, confidently explains while holding a cigarette that a setback in one round still allows for a comeback in the next. Gunwoo stiffens, meeting the challenge as Hyunmin questions his resolve after the bet is raised to 5 times the original amount. He calmly asserts himself and prepares to make the opening move, steady hands reaching for the poker chips. Hyunmin Kwon, appearing skeptical, questions Gunwoo Dahn about not using a book for air pockets, subtly criticizing the unorthodox approach. Gunwoo smirks as he firmly settles on stricter game rules, projecting unwavering confidence in his own advantage. Gunwoo Dahn calmly reaches for the poker chips with a grateful expression, responding, "How kind of you." Gunwoo forcefully slams poker chips onto the table, emphasizing his determination as tension spikes around him. They bounce and settle, the sharp sound drawing everyone's focus as the atmosphere grows heavier. Cha Yuri and Young-grok Park exchange surprised comments about the loud noise, while Gale and Palm Tree listen quietly, all sharing a sense of curiosity. Gunwoo, still composed, waves off the commotion with a hint of annoyance, telling the disruptor to stop before making others uneasy. Gunwoo stays motionless, eyes lowered and shoulders tight, letting the uneasy silence linger as he processes the situation. Attention shifts to the mere 100 poker chip, its importance underscored as it becomes the silent centerpiece in the tense atmosphere. Young-grok Park flashes a smug smile, cigarette in hand, confidently declares victory while pulling the poker chip toward himself. Gunwoo Dahn suddenly slaps the poker chips across the table, his determined glare matching the tense energy of the loud impact. Poker chips scatter as the spinning top whirls rapidly, its motion filling the tense silence. The 3 poker chips land with a sharp drop, their values catching attention as the atmosphere remains thick with anticipation. Gunwoo leans back smugly, boasting about almost winning, while Hyunmin stays focused and attentive across the desk. The scattered poker chips clatter across the table as Gunwoo glares in frustration, his anger breaking the tense silence. They bounce and settle unevenly, the sharp sound echoing as the aftermath of Gunwoo's anger holds everyone in uneasy silence. Gunwoo stays focused, watching Hyunmin's confident reaction as the terms of the high-stakes wager are set. Gunwoo Dahn, voice raised and eyes narrowed, demands wallets from the group, his commanding tone shifting the atmosphere to immediate tension. Gunwoo Dan's expression shifts from commanding to startled as he reacts sharply, eyes widening in response to an unforeseen interruption. Hyunmin Kwon, Young-grok Park, and Taekyung nervously raise their hands and answer to their assigned wallet numbers, tension still hanging in the air. Jang Seok-dong steps forward, authoritatively ordering Gunwoo and the others to quickly hand over 500 coins each as tension rises. Young-grok Park stands tensely between them as Hyunmin Kwon and Gunwoo Dahn hold out their offerings, both visibly uneasy as the demand is met. Gunwoo leans in with a mocking tone, demanding payment from Hyunmin, whose discomfort grows as the confrontation intensifies. Gunwoo, uneasy and apologetic, stammers that his mom will give him his allowance next week while Hyunmin listens suspiciously, tension lingering between them. Gunwoo, stunned, questions the claim about his empty wallet. His disbelief, clear as concern, grows between him and Hyunmin. A bloody cigarette stub drops to the ground with a soft plop as someone calls for a timeout, tension lingering in the air. Hyunmin confronts Young-grok and Taekyung with a commanding tone, pressuring them about the rules to assert himself in front of Taekyung. Gunwoo, still dragging the box, sternly emphasizes the rule about carrying coins, his strict tone reinforcing his control over the situation. Gunwoo, furious, suddenly swings a chair at the other person while demanding respect and insisting they try harder. Hyunmin escalates the confrontation, yelling at Gunwoo to turn out his pockets while Young-grok and Taekyung add pressure with hostile stares. Jang Seok-dong's face twists with rage as he yells, striking the wallet and demanding to know why it's empty. Gunwoo slams the desk toward Hyunmin, who recoils in shock as the loud impact fills the tense air. The students jolt in unison, startled and wide-eyed as they react to the sudden, unexpected event. Gunwoo Dahn holds the chair aloft with anger as Hyunmin Kwon shields himself, while Young-grok Park, Taekyung and Cha Yuri watch anxiously from behind. Hyunmin Kwon, visibly unsettled, blurts out a question as Gunwoo Dahn freezes mid-action, eyes darting in confused suspicion at the interruption. Hyunmin Kwon grips a chair and taunts Gunwoo Dahn with a smug expression, challenging his motives while Gunwoo remains tense under the confrontation. Gunwoo leans against the window frame with a smug expression, challenging the other player about running out of money mid-game. Without lowering his grin, Gunwoo hefts the chair higher, his tone mocking as he asserts control over the tense standoff. His grip on the metal bar tightens, voice strained as he tries to regain control, frustration evident in his unfinished demand. Gunwoo Dahn's expression tightens with frustration as he strains against the chair, shocked by its immovability despite his effort. Gunwoo, focused, urges Hyunmin to resume as Hyunmin calmly carries stacked chairs, both preparing to continue the game. Gunwoo Dahn leans forward with a friendly expression, inviting the other person to take a seat. Gunwoo Dahn, looking hopeful, asks Hyunmin Kwon if he can borrow a real coin, prompting Hyunmin's surprised and curious response. Gunwoo shifts uneasily, admitting with uncertainty that he thinks he understands, his hesitation clear as he responds. Gunwoo briefly inspects the coin, his focus intent as Hyunmin watches, waiting for him to finish. Hyunmin pushes chips forward with confidence, instructing the group to sit as he declares a doubled raise for the coming round. Hyunmin leans forward with a self-assured smile, confirming the new total of 1,000 coins for the round. The 5 100 value poker chips are set out in a vertical line, clearly indicating the precise sum at stake for the next action. Gunwoo Dahn, eyes-focused, extends his hand toward the desk, intent on following through with his decisive action. The poker chips scatter in all directions, the sudden impact leaving the room briefly silent as everyone processes Gunwoo's forceful move. The chips land with a distinct clink, underscoring the tension as the bet is made and all eyes remain fixed on the table. Taekyung-oh flicks poker chips across the table with a smug grin, addressing his opponent with a confident, teasing remark. Gunwoo's eyes narrow with determination as he confidently declares he's raising the stakes to 4 times the original amount. Youngrok explains the 200,000 won value in internet cafe time, and Gunwoo, Cha Yuri, and Hyunmin react with visible shock and disbelief. Gunwoo, energized by the moment, forcefully slaps down poker chips and exclaims his approval, further shifting the group's tense atmosphere. Gunwoo leans forward with growing confidence, challenging Hyunmin to raise, but Hyunmin calmly declines without breaking his composure. Gunwoo maintains his smug demeanor, confidently pushing Hyunmin to take a risk and making it clear he feels firmly in control. Jang Seop-dong leans in with a sly grin, confidently warning he'll raise the stakes tenfold if challenged. Gunwoo Dahn stands apart, visibly anxious as the group's tension spikes over Hyunmin Kwon's aggressive increase to a 500,000 won wager. Gunwoo's frustration mounts visibly, his clenched jaw revealing how powerless he feels to support Hyunmin under the growing pressure. He suddenly breaks into a smug smirk, exhaling softly, his confidence returning as he lets out a quiet, amused, "Ha!" Gunwoo sits pensively at the table, voicing his growing confusion as he continues to process the situation. Gunwoo, still seated with his gaze downcast, listens as Hyunmin admits he only played along because he believed in a talk of leadership. Gunwoo, visibly surprised, blurts out his doubts about Taekyung's loyalty, his voice wavering as he tries to process the situation. Gunwoo's face remains tense in the shadows as he silently steels himself, eyes focused with unwavering determination. Gunwoo leans forward, proposing to change the stakes as the 3 men across the table react with shock and surprise. Gunwoo Dan's voice trembles as he stares ahead, unable to process the shocking turn of events. Gunwoo, defiant, questions the motive behind raising the stakes as Hyunmin responds warily, while Taekyung silently observes the tense exchange. Hyunmin slams his hand on the desk, voice raised in fury as he accuses the other person of unfairly changing the rules. Gunwoo's anger fades to concern as he checks his pocket, admitting he doesn't have much cash on him. Gunwoo calmly lays out the fight stakes while leaning over the desk, watched closely by the other 3 in tense silence. Gunwoo stares ahead in shock, voice trembling as he demands an explanation. He leans in, confidently clarifying that the opponent controls the stakes and outcome, but reiterates he only wants a single opportunity. The other student hesitates, silently questioning Gunwoo's resolve as the atmosphere thickens with uncertainty. Gunwoo stares ahead, his expression unwavering as he insists he has nothing to lose and can't imagine defeat, projecting absolute confidence. His hand shakes, sweat gathering as Gunwoo steels himself, anxiety clearly mounting as he prepares to act. Gunwoo's fingers tighten around the remote as he quietly acknowledges his advantage, a sly confidence flickering across his features. Gunwoo's face tightens with determination as he focuses intensely, a bead of sweat betraying his tension. Gunwoo stares at Hyunmin in disbelief, struggling to process how Hyunmin solved the game so quickly and effortlessly. The focus shifts to the desk as the hidden magnet's effect on the stacked coins is subtly revealed, heightening the sense of secret manipulation. Hyunmin remains silent and fidgety as Gunwoo leans forward, his expression growing more insistent, further escalating the tension in the room. Gunwoo maintains his smug expression, leaning in slightly as he continues taunting about the other's visible impatience. Hyunmin leans back with a smug grin, pressing Gunwoo for a decision as the others watch the tense standoff in silence. Gunwoo's irritation boils over, his glare sharpening as he grits his teeth and mutters angrily about his opponent's empty words. Gunwoo glances back over his shoulder, jaw set, resolved not to let his opponent escape responsibility despite the looming accusations. Gunwoo discreetly presses a button on the remote, his anxiety masked as he resolves to hide its existence from his opponent. Gunwoo leans forward across the table, eyes sharp with determination as he outlines his plan to use the congressman's son for access. Without hesitation, Gunwoo reaches out and places a hefty stack of chips on the table, signaling his 100-fold raise with unwavering resolve. Cha Yuri exclaims in amazement at the value of 50,000 coins, while one student confirms the amount and another silently observes, all sharing a sense of disbelief. Hyunmin, furious, swings his raised hand down aggressively, shouting his threat as the tension between him and the new kid escalates. Poker chips clatter and scatter as Gunwoo's resolute hand strike punctuates the tense standoff, drawing everyone's focus to his decisive action. Gunwoo's unwavering gaze remains fixed as his hand releases the chips, their clatter punctuating the rising intensity among the silent onlookers. The poker chips remain motionless in a straight, orderly stack, their silence intensifying the tension that hangs in the air. Gunwoo, still tense, answers Hunmin's surprised question about the unflipped outcome, while Taekyung and Youngrock continue observing in silence. Gunwoo Dahn freezes in disbelief, eyes wide as he stares at the unexpected arrangement of poker chips before him. Gunwoo narrows his eyes suspiciously, revealing he sensed something was off ever since the rules were first explained. Neither Gunwoo nor Hyunmin breaks the silence, their steady eye contact holding the tense mood as they weigh each other's intentions. Gunwoo smirks smugly as he delivers a cutting insult, his tone openly challenging the other person's intelligence. He calmly continues, outlining that losers are allowed to raise their bets in the following round, subtly implying there's more to this rule than it appears. Gunwoo continues, seriously outlining how a scam exploits pride by making losers raise the stakes until they're completely broke. Tension spikes as Gunwoo Dahn silently faces Hyunmin Kwon, Youngrock Park, and Taekyung, the poker chips symbolizing the high stakes between them. Gunwoo points at the poker chips on the desk, his puzzled expression showing he can't understand their significance. The focus remains on the chips as the speaker emphasizes how suspicious the setup looks, drawing attention to the lack of books. Gunwoo demonstrates his strategy by slapping the desk forcefully, feeling its unusual thickness as poker chips scatter from the impact. Gunwoo, growing suspicious, lifts the chair and inspects it more carefully while recalling the odd feeling from earlier. Sudden realization dawns as a single desk stands out among the rows, drawing all attention to what might be concealed there. The focus intensifies as a thick metal slab is revealed, tightly wedged between the desk's top and the drawer, raising new suspicions. Hyunmin Kwon's expression turns pale with shock as he sweats, voicing his suspicion that the situation was manipulated from the start. Gunwoo leans over the desk, angrily confronting Hyunmin, who remains calm and unresponsive despite the tension. Gunwoo Dahn maintains his challenging stance, directly questioning the other's intentions with a skeptical, almost mocking tone. Gunwoo taps his bandaged chest with a smug smirk, dismissively telling the other person to blame the desk's maker instead. Jang Seok-dong blurts out, "WHHA. What was that?" as everyone stares in confusion, while Gunwoo and Hunmin remain frozen in surprise at the board. The hand hesitates, turning the screws over thoughtfully as the group's confusion lingers in the air. Gunwoo, still concentrated, demonstrates how the real coin fits the screws, sharing his practical solution with a calm confidence. Gunwoo's eye widens in shock as he reacts in utter disbelief. Cha Yuri and Youngrock Park exchange uneasy glances as Gunwoo's outburst draws the attention of everyone nearby. Gunwoo glares furiously, spitting out a curse as his rage completely overtakes him, drawing shocked looks from those nearby. Beneath the desk, loose screws reveal someone sabotaged the magnetic panel, intensifying Gunwoo's frustration as he realizes how the security was bypassed. His knuckles whiten as he tightens his grip, channeling all his frustration into silent resolve. Gunwoo Dahn thrusts his fist upward, his resolute stance signaling unwavering commitment to the challenge ahead. Poker chips scatter chaotically as Gunwoo Dahn's fist slams down, the sharp impact underscoring his rising anger and tense determination. Several poker chips tumble through the air, emphasizing the intensity of Gunwoo's outburst. The group leans in together, surprised and curious as they discover something unexpected below. Hyunmin Kwon, startled and confused, quickly looks up and questions what he just heard as the group remains tense. Youngrock Park sits stiffly, anxiety evident as he taps a poker chip on the table, the quiet rhythm amplifying the tense atmosphere. Gunwoo's breath quickens, sweat beading as his anxious gaze darts sideways, straining to understand the source of the escalating tension. The dragon-emblazoned poker chip spins rapidly, tension mounting, before it lands with a decisive clack. Additional black dragon poker chips cascade into view, intensifying the suspense as the decisive moment draws closer. As the cracked desk sits between them, Hyunmin stares at Gunwoo in shock, while classmates whisper about the overwhelming defeat. Hyunmin, voice ringing with surprise, declares Gunwoo's victory over Jumong, causing the surrounding student shock to deepen in the tense aftermath. Poker chips scatter across the table, underscoring Gunwoo's triumphant win over Jumong and the exposed failure of Taekyung's rigged scheme. Taekyung stands frozen in disbelief, grappling with the reality of his overwhelming loss and the consequences of his impulsive actions. Gunwoo Dahn stiffens in alarm, beads of sweat forming as he nervously reacts to the sudden rattling noise. Hyunmin Kwon looms over Gunwoo Dahn with a smug expression, confidently asking, "Shall I collect my prize?" as Gunwoo Dahn shrinks back in fear. Gunwoo's fist connects brutally with the man's face, blood spurting as the impact leaves the victim dazed and in pain. The next day arrives, shifting the scene to a quiet exterior view of the school building. Gunwoo grows visibly uneasy while Ta Yuri and Youngrock Park quietly spread news of Jumong's demotion among nearby classmates. Hyunmin Kwon, still surprised, presses for confirmation about Gunwoo replacing Jumong so quickly, his curiosity and doubt evident as he reacts to the news. He quietly steps through the doorway, body tense and movements careful as he enters the room. He enters the classroom with steady confidence, bandages still visible, projecting determination despite his injuries. Hyunmin Kwon, startled and hesitant, grabs the back of his chair and blurts out that he hasn't done it yet. Gunwoo confidently begins his announcement, drawing the focused attention of Cha Yuri and the rest of the class as they await his next words. The teacher stands at the front, delivering a grave announcement as Gunwoo and the other students listen in tense silence. Gunwoo, face bandaged and voice steady, boldly accuses his classmates of gambling, his determined gaze fixed on the room. The timeline rewinds, signaling a transition to the day before Gunwoo's confrontation. As the school stands quietly in the warm light, the atmosphere shifts, hinting at its unexpected transformation into a casino. The group stands frozen in uneasy silence, their wary glances underscoring Taekyung-oh's dominating presence and the invisible boundary no one dares cross. Hyunmin Kwon glances up in shock, unable to hide his disbelief as the idea of challenging Taekyung-oh's appointed leader sinks in. Jumong's face contorts in fear, sweat dripping down as he recoils, his terror unmistakable in the tense silence. Gunwoo looms over Hyunmin, intensifying the pressure as Hyunmin stares up in alarm, clutching the edge of his damaged desk. As the three students turn with wide eyes, Hyunmin points out something shocking, prompting the others to stare in disbelief. The desk stands deeply shattered, evidence of an astonishingly forceful blow that leaves witnesses questioning the sheer strength behind it. Gunwoo leans in assertively, confronting Jumong about the system while Jumong reacts with visible surprise and anxiety. Gunwoo maintains his amused confidence, challenging Jumong's ability to cover the massive bet and intensifying the pressure in the confrontation. His voice trembling, Gunwoo clings to denial, anxiety intensifying as he desperately insists gambling mistakes can happen to anyone. Gunwoo smiles gently, calmly admitting he expected this response and never let himself get too hopeful. Gunwoo turns to Hyunmin and requests his help, while Young Rook reacts with surprise, heightening the tension in the room. Hyunmin smoothly shifts attention, mentioning a leader's cheating and questioning the group about who should handle the matter. Hyunmin hesitantly reveals that someone in Class 8 leads the others, prompting Gunwoo's shocked reaction while Young Rock quietly observes. Gunwoo erupts, accusing Hyunmin of betrayal as Hyunmin recoils in shock, and Young Rock Park remains motionless in the tense atmosphere. Jang Seok-dong erupts in fury, shouting threats and demanding to know where they're taking the other person, his anger escalating rapidly. The confrontation escalates as Gunwoo Dahn kicks a chair at Hyunmin Kwon, forcing Hyunmin Kwon to stumble back in alarm. Gunwoo Dahn flinches, eyes wide as something blurs past him with a sudden whoosh, leaving him visibly startled. Blood bursts from Hyunmin's nose as Gunwoo follows through, his furious expression unsoftened by the impact. Gunwoo crashes hard onto the classroom floor, desks scattered around him as the impact leaves him visibly startled. Gunwoo, anger flaring, pushes himself up into a tense defensive stance, bracing as he shouts at his opponent to back off. Hyunmin steps forward confidently, taunting Gunwoo about the desk scam and forcing Gunwoo to listen with a nervous, uneasy expression. Gunwoo and Cha Yuri, both startled and confused, notice something odd on the desk as Hyunmin quickly turns to see what they found. Gunwoo Dahn, overwhelmed by suspicion, stares at the machine in disbelief, piecing together the deception behind Jumong's supposed skill. Before Gunwoo can respond, Young Rock Park angrily steps forward alongside Taekyung-oh and Hyunmin Kwon, all three pressing Jumong to pay back the gambling debt. Tension mounts as Gunwoo's anxiety deepens, overwhelmed by competing voices demanding repayment and revealing even larger debts owed to others. Hyunmin Kwon bites his lip until it bleeds, glaring at Gunwoo with fury as he utters a curse through clenched teeth. As the two continue down the hallway, one raises his voice, calling out to Gunwoo with urgency. Gunwoo stands quietly as Hyunmin, voice heddled with guilt, admits he couldn't help at all, tension hanging between them. Hyunmin, voice subdued, continues expressing his resignation, acknowledging his inability to take action despite wanting things to change. Gunwoo, still in the hallway, earnestly repeats his apology, his demeanor underscoring genuine regret. Gunwoo continues in a calm, serene tone, gently expressing the unfairness of questioning victims about their actions. Hyunmin nods slightly, appearing more at ease as Gunwoo's supportive words linger between them. Hyunmin, now resolute, assures Gunwoo that a chance for payback will come, his determination clear as he speaks with conviction. Gunwoo Dahn, voice trembling with emotion, quietly thanks Hyunmin as a tear slips down his cheek. Hyunmin calmly explains that rigged games and scams are usually managed by the leaders, prompting Gunwoo to consider who in Class 8 he needs to find. The narration shifts to explain that if a leader causes problems, Yuri Cha discreetly steps in to resolve the situation. Hyunmin quietly points out the classroom while Gunwoo thanks him, both maintaining a calm demeanor as Hyunmin prepares to walk away. Gunwoo absorbs Hyunmin's warning, his expression tightening as he considers the challenges of approaching Taekyung's group. Gunwoo faces the group at the doorway, maintaining his confident smile as he asserts equality, his defiance shifting the mood in the room. A sense of unease settles in as the story transitions into the events unfolding that night. Their irritation grows as they stare at Gunwoo Dan's demanding texts, gripping the phone tighter in frustration. Jang Seok-dong, clearly irritated, glares at Gale while muttering resentfully about being ordered around, his grip tightening slightly on his phone. Young-ruk Park, probing, asks Hyunmin Kwon about Taekyung's silence while Hyunmin, frustrated, admits Taekyung isn't even reading his messages, both growing tense. Gunwoo, brushing off the accusations with a confident smirk, casually reaches into his pocket while dismissing any real threat from the rumors. He glances sideways, jaw clenched, quickly mapping out his next move to block the informant's path before anything reaches Taekyung. The group closes in around Gunwoo as Hyunmin, exuding hostility, threatens to break his legs while Taekyung grips a bat menacingly. A tense silence settles as Hyunmin's bitterness lingers, the group exchanging uneasy glances while Taekyung's presence continues to unsettle their unity. The group bursts into the room, Hyunmin angrily shouting for Gunwoo to come out as tension spikes and the door slams behind them. Gunwoo remains motionless under the spotlight, his posture tense as Hyunmin, Youngrok, and Taekyung quietly observe without approaching. Hyunmin glances over his shoulder with a smirk, confidently greeting Gunwoo and teasingly asking for introductions to his friends. Hyunmin delivers his taunt while Gunwoo spits on the ground, the whole group standing together in a show of defiance and dominance. Hyunmin Kwon strides forward alone in the empty gym, his confidence unfazed as he smugly reveals he has something planned in return. Young-grok Park, eyes blazing with fury, leans in and snarls a lethal threat, making it clear his opponent won't leave alive tonight. Gunwoo continues his approach, undeterred by Hyunmin's taunts as the group blocks his path near the hoop. Hyunmin Kwon fixes his glare on Gunwoo, voice tight with anger as he warns that today's humiliation won't be forgiven. Gunwoo suddenly lunges forward, shouting, his expression fierce as he throws a determined punch at his target. Jang Seok-dong tumbles across the arena stunned, while Hyunmin Kwon's alarmed cry echoes and Taekyung grips his bat, tense. Yang Seok-dong, visibly nervous, hesitates as he prepares to share a secret, his eyes flicking away from Hyunmin and tension thick in the air. Gunwoo adjusts his tie with a calm, menacing expression, warning that he never intended to stop after just one punch. Gunwoo smiles confidently while removing his necktie, assuring everyone he won't make losers pay, emphasizing his sense of fairness. Gunwoo smirks confidently as he warns that any debts owed will turn into hospital bills after he's finished with them. Hyunmin Kwon storms forward, face twisted in anger, rallying others as he calls for Gunwoo to be taken down. Cha Yuri, partially obscured and contemplative, admits showing up driven by curiosity about what she was promised. Cha Yuri, arms crossed and gaze intent, quietly speculates about Gunwoo's motives, her curiosity sharpening as she looks out the window. She glances at her phone, voice wary as she decides to keep an eye on him despite Taekyung's dismissal. She reads the message, pausing as the group waits to see Taekyung-oh's reaction to the gossip about Congressman Dahn's son. Taeyang-oh reads the message, pausing thoughtfully as the group speculates about Gunwoo Dan's intentions after his bold first-day victory. Ik-kyung-oh reads the suspicious message, pausing as he considers the sender's question about someone's true intentions. The chat window updates as Taekyung-oh replies to Gunwoo's suspicions with a snail racing game image, deflecting the question with a playful tone. Gunwoo, Hyunmin, and Youngrok stand silently in a straight line on the grass, their calm expressions showing unity as they await the next move. Night settles quietly over the building, the calm atmosphere undisturbed beneath the starry sky and surrounding trees. Gunwoo Dan winces, forcing himself up through the pain as Hyunmin Kwon stays collapsed nearby among the scattered debris. Gunwoo Dan stands among the defeated, meeting Cha Yuri's impressed gaze as she acknowledges his unexpected triumph over Jumong's tough fighters. He winces, still feeling the pain, and admits with a hint of respect that his opponents endured far more than he expected. Still smirking despite his bruises, Gunwoo casually voices concern about overspending, maintaining his confident demeanor after the struggle. Gunwoo calmly delegates the aftermath to Hyunmin, who responds with irritation, making it clear he won't act like Gunwoo's servant. Both remain sprawled on the floor, chests heaving, surrounded by debris as exhaustion overtakes them in the aftermath. Hyunmin Kwon's eyes widen in disbelief as he leans forward, exclaiming his shock at their entire team's loss to a single opponent. A shadowy figure stands over Jang Seok-dong, voice impatient as they order Jumong to get up without delay. Bruised and suspicious, Young-grok Park confronts Yuri, his voice tense as he demands to know why she is helping his enemy. Yuri, arms crossed and visibly irritated, tells Gunwoo she wouldn't be here if it weren't for his stunt with the desk, tension thick between them. Gunwoo, still on edge from Yuri's words, sits stunned as the dropout letter lands in front of him, demanded to sign under mounting pressure. Cha Yuri fixes a pointed gaze on the listener, firmly stating that the reason for their dropout has already been fabricated and decided. Hyunmin Kwon glares in disbelief at Taekyung-oh, voice rising as he demands an explanation for being forced to leave despite being the victim. Cha Yuri leans in close, voice harsh as she orders Gunwoo Dan to sign the letter, intensifying his visible anxiety. Hyunmin presses harder, revealing the exact bank and amount as Gunwoo's shock intensifies and his eyes widen with fear. Cha Yuri stands over Gunwoo, firmly instructing him to submit the letter by morning while Gunwoo remains seated, looking pressured and resigned. Gunwoo clenches his jaw, cursing under his breath as his frustration boils over. A calm silence settles as the closed school gate marks the conclusion of the discussion, leaving the area quiet and still. Hyunmin remains close as Gunwoo quietly thanks him, the tentative mood lingering in their silent shared space. Cha Yuri calmly explains the school's organized rigged games, while Gunwoo, surprised and buttoning his shirt, questions if Taekyong is turning the school into a casino. Without missing a beat, Cha Yuri shifts the conversation, looking at Gunwoo and asking why he decided to transfer, leaving him visibly surprised. Gunwoo clutches his collar, tense and regretful, silently wishing he had stayed quiet as he wrestles with his mistake. Cha Yuri steps closer, voice sharp with suspicion, as Gunwoo grips a striped tie behind his back and insists he barely knows anyone here. Hyunmin's tone sharpens as he reveals Gunwoo's father is Congressman Dahn, explaining the accusations forced Gunwoo to leave his STEM school, leaving Gunwoo visibly distressed. Gunwoo Dahn stands by the fence, adjusting his tie with a reflective look, his composure steadying after Hyunmin's harsh revelation. Gunwoo's hand pauses briefly on his tie as the accusation lands, his jaw tightening with visible frustration. Leaning in with a serious look, she quietly reveals she's done her own research and hints at uncovering an important secret. Cha Yuri's eyes widen as she meets Gunwoo Dan's unwavering stare, the silence thickening as neither backs down in their close standoff. His lips tighten slightly as he maintains his silence, the weight of his thoughts deepening the charged stillness in the alley. Cha Yuri freezes, eyes wide and mouth slightly open, visibly stunned as she processes the shocking turn of events in tense silence. Gunwoo calmly adjusts his tie, offering reassurance as he explains he arrived by coincidence, maintaining a composed demeanor in response to the tension. He glances down at his bruised knuckles, still intrigued by the prospect of those leadership roles. Cha Yuri grins, teasingly suggesting Gunwoo's real motive is impressing Taekyong, her tone playful but perceptive as dusk settles around them. Cha Yuri grips Gunwoo Dan's tie with determination, asserting that someone better must fill Jumong's place as Gunwoo listens calmly. Gunwoo and Cha Yuri stand close, quietly agreeing to meet tomorrow as they exchange a serious look and end their conversation. Cha Yuri glances back with a puzzled look, her curiosity deepening as she recalls the strange expression from moments before. She lingers in silence, her expression shifting subtly as she tries to grasp the layered feeling that momentarily crossed her mind. Birds fly past the school rooftop as the calm atmosphere lingers, marking a gentle transition and holding the moment in quiet anticipation. Hyunmin, grinning, gestures animatedly as he recalls the chaos, while Gunwoo listens quietly amid the relaxed chatter filling the classroom. Speculation grows about Jumong's absence, with students joking he might be skipping class altogether after what happened yesterday. Young Rock Park asks about Hyunmin Kwan's absence, prompting an uncertain response as Hyunmin Kwan checks his phone with a concerned look. The sliding door rushes open, heightening the suspense as the next moment is revealed. Without hesitation, Cha Yuri strides inside, her determined tone leaving no room for argument as she orders everyone to be seated. As Gunwoo and Yuri stand together, classmates whisper curiously about their connection and speculate on why Yuri is present with the new student. Hyunmin stares wide-eyed as Gunwoo and Yuri enter side by side, drawing even more attention from the rest of the classmates. Without hesitation, Cha Yuri firmly announces Gunwoo Dan as the new class leader, drawing serious attention from the students as the dynamic shifts. Cha Yuri and Hyunmin Kwan quietly exchange worried questions, fueling the mounting tension as classmates continue to gossip about Gunwoo Dan's unexpected new role. Hyunmin Kwan sternly assigns Gunwoo to manage the class, warning everyone against cheating and emphasizing fair play with a firm expression. Cha Yuri stands pensively at the door while Gunwoo Dan quietly observes her from the side, both waiting in a tense silence. Gunwoo Dan, tense and cautious, reaches out and begins to open the door. Cha Yuri sits quietly by the window, watching as Gunwoo's blunt criticism draws uneasy glances from several classmates. Cha Yuri hesitates, her contemplative silence suggesting uncertainty as she quietly questions the situation unfolding before her. Others glance over as the murmurs grow. Taekyong remains pensive, absorbing the comparison and uncertainty lingering in the air. Hyunmin, maintaining a determined expression, firmly states that his position as class president entitles him to act as the class representative. Gunwoo Dan, resolute, proclaims his intention to back the class president, expressing loyalty as he gestures with determination. Taekyong's presence casts a sinister shadow, as corruption and depravity spread unchecked among both students and teachers. Gunwoo Dan, overwhelmed by despair, breaks down in tears and questions the value of school in a world indifferent to suffering. Gunwoo's gentle smile lingers as he calmly acknowledges Hyunmin's point, the conversation softening his earlier frustration. Gunwoo steps forward with determination, announcing to the attentive class that gambling will no longer be allowed among them. Cha Yuri, Young Rock Park, and Hyunmin Kwan all freeze in stunned disbelief, reacting with visible shock to Gunwoo's sudden announcement. Gunwoo Dahn addresses the group directly, admitting he feels different, his tone thoughtful and slightly self-conscious as attention shifts toward him. Cha Yuri glances back with determination, firmly declaring that while other classes may allow it, such actions are strictly forbidden here. Gunwoo, exuding confidence despite his bandages, challenges the class to compete with him for leadership, openly inviting any form of contest. Gunwoo Dahn slams both hands onto the desk, instantly drawing startled looks from Cha Yuri and Hunmin Kwan as the tension spikes. Hyunmin Kwan quietly walks down the narrow hallway, expression unreadable, passing the door labeled 2 to 5 as the silence lingers. Gunwoo Dahn stands calmly at the front, meeting the quiet attention of his seated classmates as the classroom settles. Hyunmin calls out to Gunwoo with a worried look, his concern evident as he tries to get his attention. Cha Yori, back turned and voice subdued, tells Gunwoo to do whatever he wants, her resignation clear as she yields control. Cha Yuri suddenly lunges forward, eyes blazing with fury as she clenches the pink object and spits out a furious threat. The perspective shifts to a deserted rooftop storage area, highlighting its clutter and emptiness as the scene transitions. The table hangs precariously in midair, heightening the tension as its movement disrupts the quiet among the boxes and furniture. Gunwoo, gripping his phone with bandaged hands, feels a cautious relief as he confirms Yuri's ignorance and trusts Jumong to keep their deal. He pauses by the fence, remaining motionless and contemplative as he surveys the scattered furniture outside. Gunwoo firmly rejects the idea of quitting, emphasizing their significant earnings and gripping his phone with determination. Hyunmin Kwan, still focused and resolute, outlines his plan over the phone, urging his group to act while promising a foolproof strategy against Gunwoo. Gunwoo, brimming with confidence, tells the others to take action while he promises to devise a foolproof winning plan. He confidently proposes they keep all the money they make, presenting the deal as fair while traffic noise continues in the background. Hyunmin Kwan, visibly irritated, clenches his phone and snaps back at the caller, demanding why they don't seize the supposed opportunity themselves. Hyunmin Kwan hesitates, listening as the caller dangles quick money and hints at Buddha's recent impact on their world. Hyunmin, sweating and anxious, delivers a harsh ultimatum over the phone, his frustration peaking as he yells at the caller. Gunwoo, still tense from Hyunmin's call, lowers the phone and frowns in confusion, unsettled by the strange clicking noise. The scene transitions outside as the school building rests quietly beneath the warm glow of sunset, evoking a calm, nostalgic atmosphere. Fingers tap intently on the smartphone screen, engaging with the snail racing game as concentration centers on the ongoing digital action. Around the classroom, students tap their fingers impatiently on desks, a quiet sense of restlessness spreading as they wait. He hesitates, glancing at the unfamiliar problem, uncertainty flickering across his face as he taps his pen against the page. Hyunmin shrugs casually, replying that there's no reason to act suspicious if nobody's watching, while others continue concealing their phones. Hyunmin lowers his voice, explaining his suspicion while Gunwoo listens closely, his surprise growing as the reason for secrecy becomes clear. He adds that these online games are popular among students, emphasizing how easy it is for anyone to get involved. Cha Yuri taps the smartphone screen beneath the desk, calmly explaining how the easy-to-play snail betting game has quickly become popular. He lets out a quiet sigh, reflecting on the limits of control as the conversation grows heavier. Hyunmin, sitting upright and visibly intrigued, responds by admitting his fascination with the situation as he addresses the unseen person. The wall clock continues to tick as the protagonist quietly reflects on their unfamiliarity with the gambling culture, deepening the atmosphere of uncertainty. Hyunmin Kwan, speaking thoughtfully, suggests that many view gambling as a simpler way to earn money compared to studying for a degree. Hyunmin, startled by Gunwoo's admission, presses him incredulously about his school history as Gunwoo remains quiet and withdrawn. Hyunmin's surprise lingers as the unknown teacher interrupts, loudly summoning Gunwoo to the first-floor teacher's lounge while Gunwoo listens, remaining calm. Gunwoo confirms the dean's title, his tone steady as Hyunmin leans forward, both focused on the implications of meeting the dean of students. Hyunmin Kwan continues, his demeanor composed as he details the notorious student's reputation and their enthusiastic role in supporting Taekyung's gambling scheme. Hyunmin Kwan leans closer, quietly questioning if Gunwoo's gambling ban is the reason someone wants to talk to him, tension lingering between them. Gunwoo keeps his hand pressed to the table, maintaining a thoughtful expression as his uncertain reply hangs in the tense air between them. Gunwoo leans against the doorframe, quietly noting with satisfaction how the classroom feels calmer despite students still gambling on their phones. He smiles gently, bandages visible, and quietly remarks that it finally feels like a real school, his voice soft with warmth. Hyunmin Kwan glances up, adjusting his glasses and replying hesitantly, his uncertain tone contrasting with the previous hopeful mood. Gunwoo closes the door behind him with a muted thud, his reserved expression hinting at lingering tension as he exits the room. He glances down at a book with a slight smile, quietly acknowledging how authentic the school environment feels. Suddenly, unknown puncher lashes out and strikes Hyunmin Kwan on the head, leaving him stunned and clutching his book in surprise. Fragments of shattered lenses scatter through the air, intensifying the tension as Hyunmin Kwan reels from the blow. Cha Yuri, with concern, urges a serious discussion about why they have to hide their games, as Younggrok Park and Hyunmin Kwan listen tensely. Hyunmin shifts closer as Younggrok and Cha Yuri watch anxiously, while Jung Seok-dong maintains a stern focus on Gunwoo at the desk. Attention moves to the quiet restroom entrance, pausing on the sign as anticipation builds for who will enter next. Palm Tree, sitting on the floor with phone in hand, reacts with disbelief while questioning how a new leader could ban gambling. Hyunmin's expression turns serious as he explains how the new leader banned gambling right after removing Jumong, mentioning Yuri's angry reaction. Elvis interjects, his focused tone shifting the group's attention from the new recruit back to the unresolved problem they had just been discussing. Younggrok Park cautiously questions the plan's certainty while Hyunmin Kwan seriously explains the phone call, with Taekyung-oh listening in tense silence. The electric fan spins unsteadily, its base trembling as a faint sense of unease settles in the room. A speech bubble appears against a blank background, highlighting the calculated admission that the offer being discussed isn't bad. Younggrok backs Gunwoo's plan with assertive confidence as the group debates their chances, the tension underscored by the subtle sound of running water. Hyunmin Kwan halts immediately, his serious expression meeting Gunwoo Dan's concerned gaze, while Younggrok Park watches both of them with unwavering intensity. The warning lingers as the closed door and mention of Taekyung-oh's authority reinforce the seriousness, halting any further reckless plans. Hyunmin Kwan, sounding resigned, shrugs off the idea of fairness and success, while Cha Yuri reacts with surprise and Younggrok Park remains quietly neutral. An electric fan rattles loudly as someone's attempt to justify scamming is abruptly cut off by an impatient interruption. Gunwoo's refusal stands as Hyunmin's warning is interrupted by a surprised outburst of pain from inside the occupied room. Gunwoo grumbles about the stench as Hyunmin pinches his nose in disgust, with Younggrok visibly uncomfortable beside them. Jung Seok-dong grins confidently, expressing excitement about the lucrative opportunity and the prospect of finally getting rich. The scene shifts to a calm, empty hallway outside the teacher's lounge, briefly pausing the momentum as conversation fades. A quiet pause continues as the perspective settles on the guidance counselor's office, inviting anticipation for the next development. Gunwoo Dan's head snaps to the side, stunned as the slap lands sharply across his face. Jung Seok-dong, voice raised, commands Gunwoo Dan to stand up straight as Cha Yuri silently observes the tense confrontation. Cha Yuri smiles gratefully as Jung Seok-dong gently acknowledges her help and allows her to leave, the mood respectful and calm. Neither Cha Yuri nor Gunwoo Dan backs down, each holding their ground as the air between them grows increasingly charged. Cha Yuri, her tone unwavering, warns Gunwoo Dan that he has no allies left in the school as he remains silently resolute. Hyunmin Kwan stands calmly confronting Jung Seok-dong, who remains serious and seated, while Cha Yuri observes the tense exchange in silence. Attention shifts subtly to the woman's departing silhouette, with an unspoken appreciation lingering in the air as she moves further down the corridor. Jung Seok-dong smirks as he teases Gunwoo Dan about a woman, while Gunwoo Dan listens in clear discomfort, avoiding eye contact. Jung Seok-dong leans in with a sly smile, revealing that girls with killer bodies online often have rich fathers and do well in school. Gunwoo, still looking battered, responds seriously by pointing out that those girls can afford their appearance because they live pampered lives in wealthy homes. Gunwoo remains tense as Hyunmin continues detailing the school's rough atmosphere, the disarray around them emphasizing the seriousness of his warning. Jung Seok-dong looks up as he shares this, emphasizing Taekyung-oh and Songmyung Group's decisive intervention after the violent incident. Gunwoo stands still, hands bound behind his back, his posture tense and resigned as the situation remains out of his control. Jung Seok-dong unfastens his watch with a cold glare, threatening Gunwoo not to interfere with the principal's reformation efforts. Jung Seok-dong suddenly smacks the back of Gunwoo Dan's head, leaving Gunwoo wincing from the sharp impact. Hyunmin Kwan stands firmly over Gunwoo, commanding him to take responsibility and restore order as Gunwoo remains seated, visibly defiant. Jung Seok-dong listens in silence as Gunwoo, slumped and weary, reflects on the school's harshness with a sense of resignation. Gunwoo, visibly bruised and weary, quietly questions how kids could act differently when even their teacher set such a poor example. Jung Seok-dong's eye narrows slightly as he remains silent, his tense gaze fixed ahead in uneasy anticipation. Gunwoo clenches his trembling fist in fury, his anger intensifying as he mocks the other's lack of respect and education. All three abruptly turn, startled and tense, as a series of loud crashes erupts nearby in the office. As Gunwoo remains vulnerable beneath Jung Seok-dong's raised fist, the threat intensifies as he questions the risk of being discovered. The conversation shifts as Jung Seok-dong listens quietly, while Cha Yuri, arms folded, voices concern about Gunwoo's motivations and his drive for revenge. Hyunmin Kwan grabs Gunwoo Dan by the collar, angrily demanding answers while Gunwoo responds calmly, insisting his information is reliable. Gunwoo pauses, gazing pensively at the broom and trash bin as he considers his next move. Gunwoo anxiously steps down, snapping a wooden stick underfoot as he weighs the risks of confrontation versus doing nothing. Jang Seok-dong tightens his grip on the staff, eyes set with resolve as he readies himself for the confrontation ahead. Gunwoo Dahn staggers from the impact, blood trickling down his cheek, but he grits his teeth and refuses to back down. Jang Seok-dong, sweating intense, urgently calls out, "Dean," his worry clear as the situation intensifies. Gunwoo, sweating with tension, fixes his intense gaze forward as he proposes, "Let's make a bet." Gunwoo, bloodied but resolute, loudly vows to completely reform the school within a year, his determination unwavering despite his injuries. A tense challenge is issued as someone pointedly asks Dean what he will wager. He keeps moving through the empty corridor, maintaining his calm demeanor and steady pace. He pauses, glancing aside with a resolute look, his injuries still fresh as he silently processes the outcome. Gunwoo, injured yet unwavering, boldly promises to reform the school while Jang Seok-dong looms above, gripping a weapon with hostile intent. Gunwoo's regret deepens as he quietly realizes he's exposed the truth, tension lingering after his earlier vow in front of Hyunmin. Without approaching, Gunwoo keeps his distance and watches as Cha, Yuri, Gale, and Palm Tree remain clustered in quiet conversation at the hallway's end. One girl enthusiastically compliments Cha Yuri's lip color while another quickly joins in, both looking to her for the answer as they walk together. Cha Yuri smiles contentedly as she explains her brother bought the item, about to say where he got it. Gunwoo's reserved expression lingers as a close-up reveals the adhesive bandage on his temple, emphasizing his recent injury without a word. Cha Yuri offers warm praise for Gunwoo's changed demeanor, while Young Rook Park nods in agreement and Gunwoo stands quietly, absorbing their approval. Without waiting for a response, Cha Yuri's tone remains strict as she emphasizes that Gunwoo should stay out of their way from now on. Gunwoo Dahn gazes downward, his face marked with bandages as he quietly processes the weight of his injuries. Gunwoo Dahn moves ahead with a detached air, while Cha Yuri, Palm Tree, and Gale follow behind him in silence through the hallway. Cha Yuri voices her disappointment to the group, her expression subdued as Gunwoo stands quietly in the background, watching the interaction unfold. As the three girls, including Cha Yuri, walk away down the hallway, the unknown figure in the foreground silently observes their departure. Cha Yuri lingers behind, her expression distant and melancholic as she withdraws further into silent contemplation. Gunwoo, still facing the hallway, delivers a mocking accusation, challenging the loyalty and reputation of Taekyung's circle with a sarcastic sneer. Taekyung, voice dripping with contempt, dismisses his opponent as utterly insignificant, refusing to grant the encounter any further importance. Cha Yuri narrows her eyes, voicing suspicion about the new kid as the classmates exchange uneasy glances, the atmosphere turning tense. Gunwoo Dahn stands alone by the window, silently processing the tension as he steadies himself after the confrontation. He hesitates briefly at the doorway, the calm light contrasting his tense demeanor as he listens for movement inside before stepping forward. Gunwoo Dahn's opponent crashes to the floor with a loud thud, while Hyunmin Kwan remains frozen, still processing the sudden violence. Blocking the doorway with a smug expression, Hyunmin turns confrontational and accuses Hyunmin of manipulating Gunwoo to appear as the model student. Gunwoo, still on the floor and visibly shaken, insists on his innocence, his voice cracking as desperation and confusion take over. Gunwoo, face twisted in fury, shouts back about losing money on coins and being forced into childish games because of the other person. Gunwoo advances with a stern expression as Young Rock quietly greets him, drawing Hyunmin's surprised attention from his spot on the floor. Hyunmin anxiously confronts Gunwoo, demanding an explanation, while Taehyung quietly observes from the floor as tension builds between them. Gunwoo grips the doorframe, grimacing as he struggles to steady himself through the pain. Gunwoo fixes a piercing stare ahead, voice sharp as he demands, "I ask you a question," refusing to back down despite his injuries. Gunwoo's face twists with fury as he shouts, You, fucking prick!" Through clenched teeth, his anger reaching a breaking point. Hyunmin Kwan stands aggressively at the door, angrily defending the school's gambling system and demanding to know who can stop them. Hyunmin Kwan, maintaining a firm stance, responds to the confrontation by openly inviting anyone unhappy with his leadership to challenge him for control. Gunwoo steadies Hyunmin as he sits injured on the hallway floor, asking if he's okay, and Hyunmin calmly reassures him. Suddenly, Taehyung bursts in, slamming the door open with a defiant glare and loudly challenges the previous claim, demanding an answer. The group's intensity escalates as Hyunmin's challenge hangs in the air, everyone awaiting Gunwoo's reaction amid mounting tension. Gunwoo sits in silence, his face bandaged, while Hyunmin watches him with visible concern, tension growing between them. Gunwoo Dahn stands firm outside the doorway, defiantly telling the two men, "I don't care what game you choose," as the crowd looks on. Gunwoo, resolute and bearing fresh wounds, faces his opponents and issues a bold challenge, inviting them to attack once they've decided. 2 days later, the scene shifts to the calm exterior of a school at sunset, signaling a passage of time and change in setting. Hyungmin confidently announces his chosen game, slamming a hand on the table as Gunwoo watches with focused curiosity. Gunwoo leans forward with a smug grin, challenging Hyunmin to represent their class in a one-on-one game. Gunwoo acknowledges the agreement and, with curiosity, asks about the specifics of the game while Hyunmin listens attentively. Hyunmin leans forward, asking Gunwoo if he's ever heard of the slime race, prompting a curious reaction as Gunwoo listens. The scene shifts to 3 colorful slimes lined up at a racetrack as someone introduces the dark web game, Slime Race. As the rules are explained, the 3 slimes dash forward, with the red slime slightly ahead as they near the finish line. The screen highlights various betting methods, emphasizing how predicting the exact top finishers increases both difficulty and potential payouts. Gunwoo, sitting alone and curious, examines the suspicious site on his phone, quietly questioning how it has avoided being shut down. Gunwoo sits near the font, puzzled, turning to Hyunmin as he quietly asks why they've been moved to these seats. Taekyung, wearing a confident smile, suggests buying tokens for the race while promising to address the other matters soon. Gunwoo Dahn, still confident, explains that others will be allowed to watch their match, assuring Hyunmin that it won't affect the outcome. Gunwoo, determined, clarifies he moved to the front so the whole class could witness what's happening, hands steady on the tablet. Hyunmin, voice cold and forceful, insists Gunwoo's lesson must be public, while Gunwoo stands tense and uneasy before the slime race game screen. Gunwoo looks up thoughtfully, acknowledging the effort put into the plan with an impressed expression. Hyunmin mocks Gunwoo with a smug grin while Gunwoo shoots back a confident, unbothered retort, keeping the playful mood intact. The group stands in tense anticipation as the rules are announced. 10 rounds, most tokens at the end, determines the winner. Gunwoo thoughtfully proposes selecting a judge to monitor everyone's picks and money, while Hyunmin and Taekyung listen and consider the plan in silence. Gunwoo, resolute and cautious, proposes selecting a fair judge to avoid any accusations of cheating as sunlight streams in behind him. Gunwoo calls out insistently for Hyunmin to be their judge, catching Hyunmin off guard as he responds in surprised hesitation. Gunwoo, visibly annoyed, points at Hyunmin and curtly rejects his request while Hyunmin stands silently, looking surprised by the response. Hyunmin stands quietly by the window, his expression turning pensive as he processes Gunwoo's rejection in silence. Without hesitation, Hyunmin turns to speak, his voice steady as he insists on taking responsibility himself. Gunwoo, maintaining his calm confidence, announces his total of 120,000 tokens, shifting the group's focus to his calculated preparation. Hyunmin Kwan, wearing a sly grin, confidently proposes the agreement for Youngho's total of 900,000 tokens, awaiting the group's response. Hyunmin Kwan, looking determined, slides the papers with picks and amounts across the table to the others as he speaks. Gunwoo, tense and cautious, places a 100,000 token bet on blue to win first, holding the betting slip tightly. Gunwoo recoils in shock, eyes wide and mouth agape as he suddenly processes unexpected news about Youngho. The shocking announcement reveals Youngho has gone all in, betting 5.9 million tokens on first, second, and third positions. Hyunmin Kwan smirks and mocks the other student about getting beaten by the dean and now being on Taekyung's family's bad side. Hyunmin speaks gravely, warning Gunwoo about the dire consequences of losing, while Gunwoo listens anxiously, sweat beading on his face. A determined resolve sets a 1-year timeline to achieve the goal of getting Taekyung. Gunwoo maintains a serious expression as he acknowledges his low chances of success, but continues to contemplate his next move. Gunwoo Dahn's contemplative gaze lingers as he quietly questions if uncertainty and risk are truly the essence of gambling. The 3 colored slimes surge forward on the orange track as the first race begins with excitement in the air. The announcer shouts as the red and blue creatures lunge ahead, the crowd's anticipation rising with the start of the race. Hyunmin Kwan, focused and methodical, reviews 2 bet slips, confirming each participant's wager amount with calm precision. Gunwoo, studying Youngho intently, quietly speculates that Youngho will stick to the minimum bet of 10,000 won each round. The focus shifts to Gunwoo and Taekyung's faces as their starkly different financial amounts are displayed, emphasizing the gap between them. An analytical moment unfolds as the diagram breaks down how Youngho's steady bets ensure a strong lead, while Gunwoo faces daunting odds to catch up. Gunwoo sits quietly at his desk, pensive as he checks his phone in the empty classroom. He firmly places his bet, gripping the slip that shows 100,000 won wagered on blue to win, determination set in his eyes. Hyunmin's eyes widen in disbelief, sweat beading as he reacts to the shocking news about Youngho's unexpected bets. The betting odds chart flashes on screen, emphasizing the high-risk 6 times payout now looming over Hyunmin's tense reaction. Meanwhile, the red, blue, and green creatures bounce playfully down the track, drawing eyes to the unfolding race. Gunwoo watches in surprise as the character marked green pulls ahead of the others on the track. Hyunmin points ahead with curiosity, drawing Taekyung's attention as he pauses mid-bite on his ice cream bar. Gunwoo Dahn watches with amusement as red regains energy, surprising green during their playful competition. Hyunmin listens anxiously as the bet results. First place red, second green, third blue are revealed, sweat forming as tension rises. The small red creature lands firmly on the checkered ground, its determined expression hinting at readiness for what comes next. The leaderboard updates as tension spikes, with Gunwoo maintaining his lead, Hyunmin pushing from second, and Taekyung showing growing frustration in third. A game screen announces there are 10 minutes until the next race, displaying the previous round's results as anticipation builds. The digital display shifts to announce the 103rd round race is beginning, highlighting previous winners red, green, and blue as anticipation heightens. Gunwoo grins with relief and excitement, sweat on his face as he exclaims his success in getting all 3 answers correct. His expression shifts to euphoric triumph as he shouts about winning 30 million thousand won and finally being free. A scattered pile of poker chips, cards, and cash signals the moment the narrator's fortune changed with the 1 million thousand won win. Gunwoo, looking smug, compares the month's worth of part-time wages to his 2-hour poker winnings as he flaunts his chips. Gunwoo, Hyunmin, and Taekyung quietly play Jumong's rigged games together, methodically earning 100,000 won each day. He reflects on losing every last bit of money, including the 800,000 won meant for cram school, as regret settles in. His thoughts linger on how regaining his starting point depended entirely on having that specific desk for slaps. Gunwoo and Taekyung confront the tied-up Hyunmin, who grimaces in distress and blurts out, "If that bastard hadn't caught Jumong." Gunwoo, his face streaked with sweat and tears, desperately calls out to Young-ho, his voice trembling with anxiety. Hyunmin Kwan smirks as he mocks someone's tears, while Taekyung-ol stands nearby watching with a neutral expression. Taekyung-ol leans in, confronting Gunwoo Dahn about the unpaid 3 million won loan, while Gunwoo, sweating, tries to defend himself. Hyungmin, visibly distressed, confesses through tears that he stole his parents' IDs and set up savings accounts, desperately hoping to clear his debt. Taekyung-ol leans in with a smug expression, pressing Hyunmin to explain how he'll cover the remaining balance after accounting for the account's value. The tension escalates as a voice, panicked and accusing, threatens to call the cops over being deceived about the debt. Hyunmin and Taekyung share a laugh, openly mocking their opponent's confidence as they exchange amused, taunting remarks. Hyunmin Kwan, wearing a confident smile, turns towards someone off-panel and initiates conversation with an easy greeting. Gunwoo defiantly challenges the threat of cops as Hyunmin calmly hands over a nail clipper with a sharp clack sound. Hyunmin smirks, clicking metal knuckles as he mocks Gunwoo's failed gambling scheme and questions what excuse he could possibly give. Gunwoo narrows his eyes, voice unwavering as he warns that even if he's arrested, the debt will grow and he will collect it. The threat intensifies as the speaker vows to expose the debt and pursue the debtor relentlessly, deepening the menacing tension. Gunwoo, battered and sweating, finally admits defeat with a weary expression. Gunwoo breaks down, tears streaming as he begs desperately for forgiveness, pleading to be spared and vowing to repay what he owes. Hyunmin confronts Gunwoo with aggressive demands for repayment, emphasizing the steep interest and Gunwoo's lack of funds as Gunwoo reacts anxiously. Gunwoo hesitates, his uneasy expression shifting as he begins to break into a subtle, uncertain smile. Taekyung leans in with a smug grin, outlining the harsh loan terms as Gunwoo listens anxiously, sweat beading on his brow. A tense voice lays out the high-stakes challenge, emphasizing that winning double is the only way to repay everything. The focus shifts to the exterior of a large school building, signaling a transition to a new setting after the tense challenge is announced. Inside the room, Gunwoo firmly issues his challenge while Hyunmin listens tensely, the confrontation between them escalating. Gunwoo, sitting casually, responds apathetically that he doesn't care what game is chosen, reminding the other person they started the conflict. As the conversation shifts, Hyunmin voices skepticism about their chances, while Taekyung nervously insists Hyunmin would take the blame if they lose. Gunwoo steps forward with determination as Hyunmin urges urgency and Taekyung reassures him, all 3 bracing themselves for the confrontation ahead. The glass door slides open with a soft motion, signaling someone's imminent entrance and heightening the sense of anticipation in the space. Gunwoo, seething after witnessing his peer's sudden betrayal, angrily slams his hand against the locker, left feeling isolated and frustrated. Gunwoo clenches his teeth and shouts in frustration, while Hyunmin stands nearby with his phone, remaining calm and unaffected. Gunwoo smirks, clearly intrigued as he notes Young-ho unexpectedly taking initiative instead of Buddha's group. Gunwoo quietly taps his bandaged hand on the smartphone, maintaining a calm focus as he processes the new development. Gunwoo stands by the window, tense and resolute, as he considers his limited funds and struggles to find a solution to his financial dilemma. Hyunmin sits with arms crossed, frustration evident as he reflects on his failed attempt to rally the class against Gunwoo to pay off his debt. Frustration and anxiety intensify as the narrator grapples with uncertainty, feeling lost after everyone unexpectedly backs out. Taekyung smugly lifts a chess piece toward the viewer, admitting all he wanted was some extra spending money. Gunwoo Dahn presses his clenched fist against the glass, tears streaming down as he cries out in despair, questioning why things turned out this way. Still wiping his eyes, Gunwoo looks around in confusion, momentarily lost as he tries to make sense of his surroundings. Gunwoo looks up from his phone, visibly irritated as he reacts to an unwanted text message, frustration clear on his face. Suddenly, Gunwoo's attention shifts as he receives a new message on his phone, curiosity flickering across his face at the unexpected offer. A suspenseful moment as Young-ho receives a mysterious message on his phone, reacting with surprise and confusion. The phone screen lights up with the tempting message urging Young-ho to follow instructions for the promise of making plenty of money. Gunwoo's expression turns alert as he quickly reacts to the sudden buzzing sound. A hand tightly grips a phone, eyes scanning the screen as leaked slime game results for multiple rounds appear in a detailed message. Gunwoo stares at his phone in shock, processing the list of leaked slime game pics that just appeared on his screen. His grip on the phone tightens as he realizes with certainty that the leaked text message is completely genuine. Without looking back, Hyunmin confidently states he'll win against Gunwoo in front of everyone, fully convinced of his victory. Gunwoo, growing impatient, demands to know the reason for the delay, catching Hyunmin off guard in the tense classroom atmosphere. Tae-kyung-oh smirks confidently as he asserts control, telling them they should be announcing who won, shifting the tension toward his authority. Hyunmin apologetically announces Gunwoo's defeat as Tae-kyung urgently demands the crowd be louder, heightening the tense atmosphere in the classroom. Hyunmin, assertive, encourages Gunwoo to speak up while Tae-kyung watches supportively as Gunwoo hesitates, mumbling too softly for anyone to hear. Gunwoo hesitates with the paper, visibly anxious as Tae-kyung, growing frustrated, shouts at him to speak up and clenches his fist. Gunwoo, voice raised in anger, grabs Hyunmin by the collar and forcefully demands he shout even louder in the tense classroom. Harsh insults are hurled at Gunwoo, who stands silently with his head down, visibly distressed by the verbal attack. Gunwoo lifts his head, his expression turning serious as he stands in the classroom, determination overcoming the sting of the recent insults. Game results are announced as Gunwoo stands defeated after his loss, while Young-ho celebrates a significant win among the tense group of students. Gunwoo and Hyunmin react with shock and disbelief to unexpected news as Tae-kyung silently observes, all three visibly surprised in the classroom. Gunwoo quickly recovers, smiling with confident ease as he affirms the comment, brushing off the earlier shock in the sunlit room. Gunwoo sits calmly, glancing to the side as he reflects with mild disappointment on Young-ho's challenge, finding it less impressive than expected. Gunwoo smirks confidently in the hallway, openly boasting about his tricks without any attempt to conceal them. Gunwoo smugly boasts to the group about winning 30 million, holding up a card as he celebrates his gambling victory. Hyunmin-kwan angrily mocks Gunwoo's leadership, clenching his teeth as he loudly declares, Gunwoo has no chance and won't last as leader. Boy smirks confidently, raising his smartphone as he urges the classmates to join his money-making group chat. Gunwoo turns back with a smug smirk, confidently issues a threatening ultimatum, and hints at someone leaking outcomes to Young-ho. Racing thoughts surge as determination hardens, the urgency to find this person eclipsing all other concerns.